All right, so for the past month, I've actually been using these right here. These are the all new DJI Mic 3 wireless microphones. And the audio you are hearing coming from this shot, my kind of talking head shot, is coming from the Mic 3, which is hooked up to my chest with a little magnet on the back. My receiver is on my camera, which is my Sony camera. So all the audio you're hearing from this shot is gonna be coming directly from this microphone. Now, when I first got the mics, I of course wanted to see how is it different from these two microphones, the DJI Mic Mini, and this is the DJI Mic 2. And when I think about the Mic 3, I kind of think of this as being a little hybrid of both of these. We have a bunch of the professional settings that came from the Mic 2, plus some new enhancements. And then you now have the size of the Mic Mini, which is super, super small. And I did want to wait to make this video because I wanted to put them through some real world scenarios. And on my most recent corporate gig, it came in really handy because on these mics right here, the Mic 3, you're able to hook up 4 of these little microphones to one receiver. And being a solo shooter, it was really nice because I was able to mic up 4 different people that were on stage doing a panel, and all 4 of those audio feeds were coming back into my one receiver on my camera. And having the ability to hook up 4 mics is definitely a unique feature. However, there was one drawback on these mics, and of course you can kind of tell because of the size, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. First, let's just go through some of the main specs of the new Mic 3. First, let's talk about weight. The Mic 3 comes in at only 16 grams, so 13 for the mic by itself, 16 grams when you hook up either the magnet or the clip on the back. Comparing that to the Mic Mini, which actually comes in at 10 grams with that clip because the clip is built into it. And when it comes down to the Mic 2, this one comes in at 28 grams. And yes, that clip is built into this one as well. What's nice about the Mic 3 is the clip is detachable. So you don't necessarily have to have the clip on there. If you want to remove the clip and just use the magnet, hook it up here to the back, you're able to do that. And this is a really nice feature because you're able to keep the microphone just like this, a lot more flat on your chest, where here, if you hook up a magnet to the back of it, you still have the clip on there. So the mic kind of sticks out a little bit more. It tends to drag your shirt and your clothing down more because it is coming off of your shirt. Now, one big benefit of the DJI Mic 3, if you are in that DJI ecosystem, you can hook up this mic to things like this, the DJI Osmo Action. You can hook it up to the DJI Osmo Pocket. You can also hook it up to the older Action as well, the Action 4. So you have the ability to use not only the mic on your camera with the receiver plugged into the 3.5, but you can use them on things like this. Action camera, pocket. So depending, of course, if you are in that ecosystem, definitely helps out by having just one mic that you can use for a bunch of different applications. Next, we'll talk about internal recording, which is one of my favorite features, which they brought over from the Mic 2. The Mic Mini does not have any internal recording storage. The Mic 2 has 8 gigs of internal recording, and now the Mic 3 has 32 gigs internal recording, which means you don't necessarily have to hook up a receiver to your camera or to your mobile phone. You can use this as a standalone mic. So if you just wanted to hit record here on the side, you can now just do interviews like this. You can talk through the microphone itself, and everything gets recorded to the memory on the Mic 3. The internal memory on these mics can record up to 43 hours of 32-bit float audio. And there's even an option there to do a dual recording. So it records the original file as well as an algorithm enhanced file. And when that dual recording is on, you can get up to 21 hours of 32-bit float recording to these mics. Next thing I like on the Mic 3 is the ability to keep all of your accessories within this hard case. Prior to this case, you would always have to carry around your microphones as well as a separate bag to carry all your accessories, your wind muffs, your cables. Now everything fits within here. So all you have to do is put your mics back in there. You can actually keep the cord, which is kind of cool. It's like curled up there. And you also have a locking port here on this side. So if you want to lock it to your receiver so it doesn't pull out, really nice feature that they added here, which we don't have on the previous ones. You have your magnets on the very top shelf, and you can actually keep the wind muffs on your microphones while it's still in the case. And speaking of the cable, if you don't want to use the cable, like I really don't like using cables, you can get the optional adapter, which they have here for Sony cameras. And all you have to do is plug it into your hot shoe right there on top, and then your receiver plugs in now, USB-C, which is really nice. This was an optional accessory that they brought out when the Mic 2 was released. Unfortunately, the Mic 2 adapter does not work with the Mic 3, so you're gonna have to get a separate or different adapter for the Mic 3. Not only do we have 32 gigs of internal storage, we have 32-bit float recording, something that we also had here on the DJI Mic 2s. That 32-bit float recording comes in handy, especially if you're in environments that might be really loud or environments that might be really soft. That 32-bit float recording gives you a lot more flexibility in post in those scenarios where you need to make a lot more adjustments. Now, when it comes down to battery life, each one of these transmitters can record for up to 8 hours. Then when you want to extend it out, just drop them back in the case. The case will then charge the transmitters, giving you up to 28 hours of record time. And what's nice is that if you are in a pinch and you needed to charge this up in 5 minutes, it'll actually give you about 2 hours of record time on these transmitters. One of the new features on the DJI Mic 3 is the ability to change the tone of your voice that's coming through the mic into the receiver. Right now, this is the sound, or this is the voice that you're hearing in a regular mode. Next option we have now is called Rich. I think it's a little bit more fuller of a voice. So how does this one sound? This one is called Rich as far as the settings goes. First one is regular, the second one is Rich. And finally, the last one is called Bright. If you want to have a little bit more enhancement on the high tones of your voice, this one is called Bright. How does this one sound compared to the regular, as well as compared to the Rich options we have here on the DJI Mic 3? Another feature we have is adaptive gain control. We have it automatic as well as dynamic. For most of my stuff, I will just use automatic mode, but at least you do have the option there for automatic as well as dynamic. All right, hopefully you guys can see me from way over here. I'll put a little arrow on top. But the one thing that is nice about the DJI Mic 3 is that we do have a maximum transmission range of 400 meters between the transmitter and the receiver. That's, of course, unobstructed. That's line of sight, and it is an upgrade from the DJI Mic 2 system, which was rated for about 250 meters. I'm here at Wind and Sea, one of my favorite beaches to shoot at and just to hang out at. It is a super high tide today, and it is nice and loud. Oh, the one thing that's nice about the Mic 3, we also have noise canceling. So I'm gonna double click the mic right now, and noise canceling is set to, I believe, basic. There's two options, there's basic and strong. I'm gonna switch it over to basic right now. Okay, so noise canceling is on. We just got sprayed by a bunch of water, but how does the noise canceling sound? Waves are crashing, we're at the ocean. How does the noise canceling basic sound? Let me switch it over back to normal. And there you go, noise canceling is now off. But I do like the fact that we have a little bit of extended range here on the DJI Mic 3. 400 meters unobstructed line of sight compared to 250 meters, which we were getting on the DJI Mic 2. And you do have that option for lossless transmission. However, it only records in 24-bit, and the distance definitely is not as far as 400 meters away, but you do have that lossless option. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I did use these on a couple corporate gigs, and the one thing that is nice is that we do have built-in time code. That time code is definitely important, especially if you're shooting with a bunch of different operators and you need to quickly sync them all up. You have time code options here where we don't have those on these microphones. Now, I do a bunch of corporate gigs, which means I'm gonna need a microphone hooked up to my talent. And a lot of times I just don't like having the mic exposed like this. Yes, I can hide it in different places. However, it just looks a little bit more, I would say, corporate professional to have something like a lavalier mic clipped to their lapel or their shirt versus having something like this on their chest. So when it came down to those situations where I needed to hook up a lav mic to the talent, I will then bring this guy out here, which is the DJI Mic 2. Whenever I do a lot of my interviews, I will use a lav mic versus one of these. Again, you can hide these in different ways. You can also hide the lav mic in different ways as well. But just to have it, I would say a little bit more corporate professional, I will still hook up a lavalier mic, and you'll need to do that with the Mic 2. You don't have that option here with the Mic 3. And being that we don't have any USB-C ports on the actual transmitters themselves, if you wanted to download the files from these, you're gonna need to put them back into the case. Then you just have to plug in the USB-C port here on the back to your computer. It'll then show up as a hard drive on your desktop. Then you can download the audio clips from there to your computer. Having the ability to hook up to 4 of these Mic 3 transmitters to just one receiver definitely is a game changer if you're doing something like a podcast or you're doing, which I did. I had to shoot a panel of people up there. I had 4 people, actually I had 5 people up there, 4 or 5 people up there, and I was able to mic up all 4 of them and have that feed go directly into my camera. I didn't have to worry about syncing it all later on in post. And for an even more advanced scenario, if you had a bunch of cameras, say if you're doing a shoot where you needed multiple cameras and you wanted that 1 or 2 audio feeds to go into all of the other cameras. So if you had like 4 or 5 different cameras hooked up around the room and you had receivers on all those cameras, you can actually have all of those feeds coming from the mics, pushed out to those receivers, all recording from those 4 transmitters. And there it is, guys, the DJI Mic 3. A ton of advanced features that we don't even have here on the Mic 2. The one downside, like I said, is just the lav mic. So if you're the type that you don't need a lav mic and you don't really care, maybe you don't do gigs where you have to have a lavalier mic hooked up to it, Mic 3, definitely the way to go. So I'll still keep the Mic 2 in my bag, but for all my other shoots, definitely get away with something like this, the DJI Mic 3. Of course, links to these products will be down below in the video description. And if you guys got some value from this video, a big like would be much appreciated. This is Aljo Anastasio with FlytPath.com. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.